The Wizard of Oz is one of the most famous movies ever made, but behind the scenes, it was a dangerous place. The actors went through horrible experiences that changed their lives forever, from developing cancer due to toxic makeup to suffering excruciating burns and permanent scars. Here are some of the actors whose lives were forever changed by their time on set. Let's begin with probably the worst case of all, Tin Man. One of the worst cases was Buddy Ebsen, who was originally cast as the Tin Man. His time on set became a painful memory that stayed with him for the rest of his life. Buddy Ebsen was a talented actor, dancer, and singer. He was supposed to play the Scarecrow at first, but that role was taken away from him. Instead, he was given the part of the Tin Man, which turned out to be a disaster. To create the Tin Man's look, the crew used pure aluminum powder for his makeup. They covered his face and hands with this dangerous substance. But nobody realized how harmful it was. Every day, the aluminum dust entered his lungs as he breathed, and it started to coat the inside like paint. The set was extremely hot, and the makeup melted often, so it had to be reapplied several times a day. Each time this happened, Buddy inhaled even more of the toxic dust without knowing the damage it was causing. At first, he only felt minor cramps while working, but things got worse quickly. Just 10 days into filming, he woke up struggling to breathe. He felt like he was dying, and he had to be rushed to the hospital immediately. The doctors discovered that his lungs were severely damaged, and he stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks. His condition was so bad that oxygen could barely reach his blood. He was in terrible pain, and the experience left him traumatized. When he finally recovered enough to leave the hospital, he expected to return to the set. But he received devastating news. The studio had fired him while he was sick, and they had already found a replacement. The producers did not care about Buddy's health. They acted like his suffering was not real and claimed he only had an allergy. Instead of fixing the problem, they simply changed their methods for the new Tin Man. They chose Jack Haley to replace Buddy, but they did not use the same dangerous aluminum powder on him. Instead, they mixed it with a paste before applying it to his skin. Jack still developed an eye infection, but his condition was nothing compared to what Buddy had gone through. Buddy's lungs were permanently damaged, and his career was never the same after that. Buddy Ebsen's story is heartbreaking, but he was not the only one who suffered because of The Wizard of Oz. The movie was filled with problems that put the cast in danger. Ray Bolger's role was physically demanding, and the costume he wore caused long-term damage to his face and health. Ray Bolger had to wear a rubber mask every day while filming. The mask was made of latex, and it stuck to his skin like adhesive tape. After long hours of shooting, it took about 1 hour to peel the mask off his face. This process was painful, and it had to be repeated daily. Over time, the damage became permanent. His face developed deep lines that looked like a waffle pattern because of the mask. When filming ended in March 1939, Ray removed the mask for the last time and realized that the marks would not go away. The corners of his mouth and chin never fully recovered from the damage, and his face remained scarred for the rest of his life. The problems did not stop there. The production team used dangerous substances on set without thinking about the risks. In one scene, Dorothy and her friends walked through a snowy poppy field. The snow looked beautiful on screen, but in reality, it was made of gypsum. Many people believed that the production used asbestos for the snow because asbestos was common in movie effects at that time. While the snow was not made of asbestos, Ray's costume contained it. The reason was simple. His character, the Scarecrow, had a scene where the Wicked Witch set him on fire. The studio used asbestos in his costume to make it fire-resistant, but nobody thought about the long-term dangers. Asbestos is a harmful substance that can cause serious illnesses, including cancer. Many years after the movie was released, Ray Bolliger was diagnosed with bladder cancer in 1986. He passed away in 1987 at the age of 83. Because of the asbestos in his costume, people have wondered if it was connected to his illness. However, no confirmed report has linked his cancer to the asbestos exposure from the movie. Margaret Hamilton played one of the most unforgettable characters in The Wizard of Oz, but her experience on set was far from magical. The role of the Wicked Witch of the West came with a great price, and she suffered physically and emotionally throughout the production. The green makeup used for her character was dangerous because it contained copper, which is toxic to humans. It caused serious health problems for Margaret, making it difficult for her to eat properly. She had to rely on liquid food through a straw because she could not risk getting the makeup in her mouth. Even when she breathed, she had to be careful not to inhale the harmful substances in the paint. The removal process was another nightmare because the green color stayed on her skin for months after filming ended. Despite all these struggles, the worst moment came during a special effects scene where the Wicked Witch had to vanish in a puff of smoke. The film industry had no advanced technology at that time, so real fire was used to create dramatic effects. Margaret had to stand on a trapdoor while a burst of flames shot up around her. The moment the fire appeared, something went terribly wrong. The flames engulfed her costume and burned her skin before she could escape. She suffered third-degree burns on her face and arms, which led to excruciating pain and a long recovery period. The green paint made things worse because the copper in it reacted with her burned skin. Doctors had to pour alcohol over her wounds to remove the toxic makeup, causing even more agony. Margaret's suffering did not end there. Her injury delayed production, but the studio did not seem to care much about her pain. Instead of showing concern, they were more focused on getting her back to work as soon as possible. After she recovered, she returned to the set, but she refused to do any more dangerous stunts. The studio then brought in a stunt double named Betty Danko to take her place in risky scenes. Betty had her own terrible accident when she attempted a broomstick stunt. The broom had a hidden pipe that was supposed to release smoke, but during her third rehearsal, it exploded. She was thrown off the broom and suffered severe injuries. Her legs were scarred permanently, and she had to stay in the hospital for almost 2 weeks. Judy Garland played the sweet and innocent Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, but behind the scenes, her life was anything but happy. At just 16 years old, she was already facing an enormous amount of pressure from Hollywood executives. The studio expected her to be perfect, and they didn't care about her health or well-being. She was forced to work extremely long hours, sometimes for days, without proper rest. Whenever she became too exhausted to continue, they gave her stimulant pills to keep her awake and full of energy. The moment filming ended for the day, they would give her sleeping pills to force her to rest. This cycle continued for months, turning Judy into an addict before she even realized what was happening. Her struggles did not stop with the pills. The studio also controlled what she ate because they wanted her to maintain a specific weight. Executives constantly criticized her for not being thin enough. They even called her a fat little pig with pigtails and made her follow a strict diet that barely gave her enough nutrition. She was allowed to eat only chicken soup and black coffee while also smoking cigarettes to reduce her appetite. No one cared about her health as long as she looked the way they wanted on screen. The pressure on her young shoulders was immense, but she had no one to protect her. Even her own mother, who had been pushing her into show business since she was a toddler, supported the studio's harsh treatment. The abuse did not stop at verbal insults and unhealthy diets. Judy also faced physical mistreatment from the film's director, Victor Fleming. In one scene, she kept giggling because of nervousness, and instead of handling the situation with patience, the director slapped her. She had no choice but to keep working because standing up for herself was not an option in an industry that saw actors as replaceable. Her male co-stars had a much easier time on set and were paid far more than she was. While Judy earned $500 per week, Ray Bolger and Jack Haley earned $3,000 each. The unfair treatment was clear, but she had no power to change it. The entire system was built against her, and she had to obey or risk losing her career. By the time The Wizard of Oz finished filming, Judy was already addicted to the pills forced on her. This addiction followed her for the rest of her life. The same substances that kept her awake and working as a teenager later became the cause of her downfall. She spent years struggling with addiction, and it affected both her career and personal life. Despite her talent and success, she could never fully escape the damage caused by those early years in Hollywood. Her tragic story ended in 1969 when she passed away at the age of 47 due to an overdose. Don't forget to give this video a like, smash that subscribe button, and also ring that notification bell